I've asked them each to start off in the order of farm to market and share with you here and on Zoom their perspective on what are some of the successes that you've seen in our New York State supply chain, and also what are some of the barriers you've encountered. So if you would, please share an answer to that.
Okay. I'm a longtime farmer in the Hudson Valley, and I produce gorgeous sustainable fiber that can be a fashion textile asset. Obviously, I'm not used to public speaking. The sheep don't care what I say. My lambs are born, grown, shorn, and colored or dyed on the farm. I'm proud of my product, and I want my enthusiasm to be communicated to the consumer. I do want to be compensated for my time and my labor. It would be really nice if my sheep were financially independent. We have not yet reached that stage. I want to share my valuable fibers with designers, weavers, fabricators, and retailers. Hudson Valley Textile Project is taking steps to build this community. Basically, I'm hoping to work toward more infrastructure to facilitate more use of local fiber.
Thank you. Tim.
So, success, I would say, the first one is actually happening now, and it's really the regional textile community that's formed, and it's represented by HVTP. And the reason I know it's a success is because we've had other neighboring fiber sheds come and visit us, and they're looking to what's happening here in the Hudson River Valley as an example and as inspiration for what they're trying to do from wherever they come from. We had people this past summer from Oregon who are working on doing stuff with flax, and they came back here to visit the mill and to visit Clean Fleece, the scouring mill, because like here, one of the opportunities, if you want to talk about, what is there room for growth here, is scouring. So Clean Fleece is getting going, and we haven't even begun to meet the need for scouring in the Northeast, and in fact, on the East Coast. Chargers in South Carolina is, if they went out of business or even just faltered, it would affect really pretty much the entire United States. So there's lots of room for that. The other thing that there's a lot of room for that's an opportunity is more knitting mills, socks, hats, gloves, because we have customers we have to talk. Just last week, we were talking to one of our customers, and he's asking us, why is it going to take that long for me to get my knit goods back from those people out in the Midwest? And it's because they've hit their show season and they're knitting for themselves. And they have to put all of us on the back burner until they're done with that. And so if we had places closer that could do that, small knitting mills would have all the work you want. And then within the mill, the opportunities that we're working on that I see are different fibers, bast fibers in particular, hemp and flax. We're doing a lot with hemp. We haven't done anything with flax yet, but they should translate almost directly. But the other thing is, like the story I believe in this newspaper about the No Nylon Sock Project is using different kinds of fibers and combining them in blends we don't normally use to combine their attributes and make a better yarn. And one of the examples is that you don't think of as a go-to breed for wool for this kind of stuff is East Frisian dairy sheep. And we've been making a bunch of that. And I just took a couple of trips north of us to buy hundreds of pounds of that stuff so that we have it on hand to keep working with it. And then there's Dorset, and then there's other breeds that are also very interesting. So there's success and there's opportunity, and it's actually not like what were the successes. It's the success is happening right now. and the opportunities have yet to be tapped. So
Thank you.
that's what I think.
Cece, you're next.
Yeah, so I'm merging myself with Lilly, who's not here. Lilly is a weaver, but we think alike because I'm looking at her notes and it's like she could be speaking for me. So I'm going to kind of go back and forth. But one of the biggest successes that Lilly wanted me to share is that New York has a great number of medium and long wool types. We don't have a lot of merino sheep. We have a lot of interesting other breeds of sheep. And that's really fascinating because you're going to make different products with those. And I think that's a big success in trying to find ways to use those different varieties of sheep characteristics and make amazing products with them. And combining weaving with bast fibers and wool and, you know, these pillows that we were showing you, that's amazing. And those were woven at Lilly Marsh Studio. So there's a lot of excitement in the fiber world. And it's about time. You mentioned, Mary Jean, that I was a senator. So I had a 5-county area that I represented. So whenever I came across another sheep farmer, I'd say, what do you do with all the wool? And 9 times out of 10, they were throwing it away because no one wanted it. We want it. We want to be able to get it into the marketplace. And thankfully, we have places like Battenkill Fiber, but we need more infrastructure. We need to have more of an area where we can collect those fibers into a place like a wool warehouse, sort them, and then show designers what you can do with these different types of fabrics and fibers, and then let the designers and students out there really go for it because it's here. We've just got to make it easier for you to access it.
Thank you. Sergio's next in our supply chain.
Well, I think 2 things that are really amazing that are happening. Our industry used to be so siloed in terms of industries, where we never really had discussions between a farmer, like all the different components that go into creating products. There wasn't communication at all. And now there's all of these initiatives happening and this is coming together. And I think this is a huge push, not only to kind of set the system up, but also to educate future people wanting to be creators and doing it in a responsible way, which as a young designer, those things were never a part of the conversation. So this is such an important moment in time that we're having right now. And I'm just excited for all the future. And if you're a creative person out there, these are the types of conversations you need to be participating in.
And Mimi.
Yeah, so kind of leading into what Sergio said, as a fashion brand, I mean, doing things mindfully and ethically, really paying attention to people and planet is difficult. As Isabella also mentioned, you know, the fashion industry is kind of broken. So I think that the success really is that we are here all as a community taking notice to this. And just in the 10 years that I've been in business, there's been a real change in that. And the fashion industry as well is starting to listen. So still a lot of work ahead. But I think I always say, like, big change starts small. So I think us starting here, buyers are listening, consumers are listening, they want this. And I think opportunity is real education. So honest transparency, really sharing the stories of where everything comes from and translating that to the people that are purchasing this, as well as those in the fashion industry, and explaining why these things have a value to them and cost what they do, and factoring that into the equation, people and planet, in terms of profitability as well.
What a great set of opening remarks. They made my job of asking them questions super easy. They teed me right up to say, a few of you have already touched on some of the opportunities you see growing into the bast fibers, collaborating with other organizations. Many of you talk about the opportunities with young people. Let's do another round in any order and just expand a little on some of these opportunities and your ideas for how we could move ahead and really implement them.
Anyone?
What-
Well, the knitting, opportunity, I think, is pretty immediate, and I don't know what the investment is that's required to set up something like that. But with the right equipment and really a pretty small number of people, um, in a not a giant space, you could get that going, and we could use a number of those. So that's one that I see as being pretty prime. Scouring is hard. Scouring is a hard nut to crack. But knitting mills seems like that could get going pretty quick.
Well, I know Lilly she mentioned opportunities, especially with people working with her studio, learning. There's a hunger for young people to understand how do we make these products. And there's a definite need for more education in that world and apprenticeships. I know she's been very willing to open up her studio to students, but it's hard because we don't have a lot of knowledge out there, and it's important that those teachers get the support to teach others. So I think having more opportunities at fashion schools to support those types of internships, and to help support those teachers to get those students in their studios, because if you're going to learn so much more by doing, but also having that fiber available. I might decide I want to make ponchos too, but I've got 10 pounds of skeined yarn because I didn't think I could do that. And like Isabella, and it's in the wrong format now for the weaver. So I've got to put it into the right format. So this production of what are we making has to start so much earlier with what fiber are we using? How are we putting it up? What are we making with it? And what product? Are we knitting it on a machine? Are we knitting it on a weaving studio? There's so many components that we have to figure out at the get-go, which is why I really think starting with a wool warehouse, just bring those fibers together and classify them and say, this is Romney, this is what's good for Romney, and here's some Romney fiber products. Here's Jacob, we love Jacob. And here's what we can do with Jacob because it's a little scratchy. You know you're wearing it. So what can we do with these different fibers that we know are here in New York State? And then help, and New York State can play a large role through the Fashion Innovation Center to help tell that story, because we can't expect students and designers out there to pick up, because it's too disparate, it's too broken.
Yeah.
And
And
we
it's a
need to-
language too. Like even all the words that you say, I don't know what half of it means. So it's like learning a new language and you being the guide to showing everybody what all of these things mean.
I'd like to jump in and just say, yes, I think that like New York State support with agricultural markets as well as the Fashion Innovation Center is super exciting because, again, speaking from a brand perspective, it is not easy to make these things. And I think if we have that support from the Fashion Innovation Center to fully come together and really support kind of an incentive to make it the way that we are, right? Locally, naturally, like truly, authentically, and make sure that story is told, then it can grow and we can all thrive from that, right? So.
Well, one example I wanted to share, the Fashion Innovation Center, there's a number of us have been working with the folks at RPI to set up laboratories there. And one of them that we've suggested is a yarn sampling lab where you can bring only 8 sheep's worth or a couple sheep's worth of wool and see what type of yarn you can make with that and get it to a finished format a lot quicker. And then once you've got your formula, maybe I'm going to add some merino to soften up. Maybe I'm going to add bast fiber to make really interesting upholstery fabric. But you're making it on a small scale so you can do the sampling, do the testing, get your formula, and then go to a Battenkill fiber or another mill with, this is what I'm making. We know more about what it is we're going to end up with, and that process is going to speed up. Plus, if you have the little warehouse there, you've got the fiber you can then utilize. I'm really pushing that.
Let's see what we have for questions for the panelists. We can stay here as long as the food doesn't run out, but the Zoom people are going to be shut off in just a couple of minutes. So what do we hear, Abby? Are there questions from our friends on Zoom?
Give us a moment for some to come in, but we've had some really nice comments. Annie had to say it, it's so beautiful that New York State is supporting initiatives to create a full farm to fashion supply chain and hyper-local is the way. Give us just a couple of minutes, I'm sure it comes.
Okay, we'll await those questions. And let me just say about Tim's idea of knitting mills, Tim, we're not getting, see, I still have a little bit of boat at Battenkill Fiber. We're not getting knitting equipment. there.
No,
Sorry.
no, I do
No.
not want to do that. I want
But-
someone else to do that.
Yes, just so that we're clear, we're not getting it. But the good news is the Fashion Innovation Center has an equipment budget and could buy a knitting machine, put it in the lab next to this yarn making stuff that Cece wants them to get. And they could figure out, like, just to make a pair of socks, it's computer now. And so a computer person could figure out the program, get it all set, and help an entrepreneur start a business, know which machine to buy, how many needles to buy, what gauge of yarn to use. And that same entrepreneur could be in this room or on the Zoom right now, because any day now, $10,000 grants are coming from the Fashion Innovation Center. So you who are listening could be applying for $10,000 to do business planning, to go and visit a trade show where all the sock machines in the world are on display. You could be working with the lab at RPI to do knit downs of different gauges, different breeds, like try dairy sheep socks, try no nylon socks with Dorset. You might like it. So have I filled enough time for a question, Abby?
I do have a question. Lilly would like to know how we can find more information on these resources readily available. Is there a list of organizations or place to find these groups?
A place to find these groups.
There's the Hudson Valley Textile Project. We are a membership organization, and you can certainly join us and get in touch with other members. And there will be a website for the Fashion Innovation Center, and they will be announcing where you can get information about the grants that are coming out.
So it'll be nyfic.org, maybe even live today, but or
Coming
tomorrow.
soon.
Coming soon. In the meantime, just join Hudson Valley Textile Project. That's like a donation, only smaller, but still we'd love to have you. And that's a great
there's-
way.
There's the summit every year that Hudson Valley Textile Project puts on that brings designers, brings farmers, brings mill owners together in a single room so that you can network and find out who's doing something interesting and how can you build on that.
The summit will be April 9th this year in Kingston, and by becoming a member of the Hudson Valley Textile Project, you get automatic free admission. You got to pay for your lunch, but you get to come to the summit as part of your membership. Thank you for reminding us. Any more on the Zoom, Abby?
Yes, this comes from 2 textile students that are interested in ethical and local production. They asked, how can we get in contact with people who are working with vast fibers of textiles and wool and might be interested in collaborating?
Well, one new organization is North American Linen Association, which was started by the folks I was talking about out in Oregon. And they have a webpage. So that's NALA is the acronym, NALA. And for hemp, I'm not sure. I'm sure there's an organization. I don't know if anybody here knows what that is for hemp. And what was the other part of the question?
They want to do things. They have some ideas, and how can they launch an idea? I think we should try to sell them some wool hemp sliver, Tim.
Yeah. I guess the way to try and do something like that is to get in touch with a mill like ours.
Yeah.
And as we pull all this stuff together and get it running, is to work with a mill that is doing that kind of work. I can offer our own mill for that. We're just getting it rolling. But I'm sure there's other mills that would like to do that as well.
And once you have your fabric, you can come to Madex Hudson and we can help you develop your idea from scratch to the manufacturing process.
Like the bucket hats, the
Mhm.
Hudson Farm Cloth, which is a brand of Lilly, Marsh and me. We had Sergio help us design bucket hats made with our first round of wool hemp fabric, and they're all sold out, or I'd also be trying to sell you one of them. But they were,
They're beautiful.
well, thank you for your work on them, because it was such a good idea to use small pieces of fabric, so there's almost zero waste, and they were very, very successful. And I have another business partner too, in another company called the Field to Fiber Company, and we specialize in just making the hemp sliver. So that's our little new company. We have specialized equipment that takes the decorticated hemp and prepares it up to the sliver stage. So far, our biggest customer is Battenkill Fibers. I know it's very incestuous. Abby, do we have any last question from the Zoom?
I was wondering if we could have each person just briefly repeat their name and the name of their company.
Of course. Let's start with the farmer, Jane.
Jane Lyman, Lyman's Sleigh Bell Farm from Delmar, New York.
Tim Holt, Battenkill Valley Fibers in Greenwich, New York.
I'm Cece Tkaczyk and I have a farm called Battenkill Jacobs, and I have Cece's Wool, which makes pillows and dog beds, and a yarn shop in Guilderland. And Lilly Marsh, who's not here, is from Lilly Marsh Studios in, where is she from?
Queensbury.
Thank you, Queensbury, New York.
And
My two companies, madexhudson.com, you can look at us for manufacturing or development, and then celestinocouture.com is my sustainable couture business.
And Mimi Prober, sustainable fashion brand, sell in retail stores and custom pieces.
And we're all members of the Hudson Valley Textile Project. So if you decide to become a member, especially if you're interested in this field and you're a student, you want to connect with farmers and with designers and weavers, that's a good place to connect with, because we're all marching in the same direction. You'll be with like-minded folks who are interested in your ideas and want to work with you.
all right. As we're winding down, I just want to remind you, if you are thinking of joining the Textile Project, there's a Join Now button on the hvtextileproject.org website, or studio audience, you can just join on your way out the door. It will get you free admission to the April 9th summit. You'll be listed in our online directory, receive our monthly e-news, and many other benefits.